My mother's name was Diane. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday without writing it down, who showed up at your door with soup before you even told her you were sick, who laughed at her own jokes before she finished telling them, and somehow made you love her more for it. She was also, I understand now, a deeply private person. There were rooms inside my mother that she kept closed. I grew up knowing this the way you know the layout of a house you've lived in your whole life, not through examination, just through daily familiarity. Certain doors stayed shut. I learned not to knock. I was 9 years old when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. I was 16 when she died. Those 7 years in between, I've spent a long time figuring out how to describe them. The closest I've gotten is this. We lived two lives simultaneously. The ordinary one, full of school and soccer games and Sunday dinners and bad television. And underneath it, always, the other one. The one with treatments and hospital visits, and the particular courage my mother had that was somehow both the most comforting and the most heartbreaking thing I had ever witnessed. She never complained. Not once. Not in 7 years. I used to think that was strength. Now I think it was also partly practice. Practice at keeping things inside. Practice at carrying something heavy without letting it show. She was very good at it. My dad's name is Robert. He's an engineer, methodical, steady, the kind of man who thinks before he speaks and means everything he says. He and my mother were married for 26 years, and I grew up watching them build a life together that felt, to me, like the definition of what a marriage was supposed to look like. After Mom died, it was just the two of us. We lived in the family house in Columbus for 2 more years. Then I went to college in Nashville. Then I stayed. We talk every Sunday. He never misses it. I want you to hold on to that, because what I'm about to tell you is going to be complicated, and I need you to understand that Robert Calloway is my father. That is not a complicated sentence. That is the most settled, certain thing I know. But when I was 25 years old, I found out he is not my biological father. And I found out because my mother told me, in a letter from beyond her grave. My 25th birthday was a Tuesday in April. I woke up early, made coffee, sat at my kitchen table in Nashville, and looked at the envelope that the lawyer had mailed me the week before, because he was organized and didn't want to be responsible for me not receiving it on time. Cream-colored. My name on the front in my mother's handwriting. I had not seen her handwriting in 9 years. My hands were not steady when I picked it up. I told myself I was ready. I had been telling myself that for 2 years. I opened it. She started the way she always started things. Directly. With warmth. With the particular voice that I would know anywhere. My darling Anna. If you're reading this, you're 25. I'm trying to picture that. I can't quite manage it. You're so permanently 16 in my mind. The last version of you I'll get to keep. I hope 25 looks good on you. I suspect it does. I had to stop reading for a moment. Because that was her. That was completely, entirely, unmistakably her. And she had been gone for 9 years. And there she was, on a piece of paper, talking to me like no time had passed at all. And I had to put the letter down and press both hands flat on the table and breathe. Then I picked it up again, and I got to page 2. There is something I need to tell you. The man who raised you, your father, Robert, is not your biological father. I read that sentence 4 times. I was 24 years old. I met a man named Patrick Whitfield. We were together for 8 months. I loved him the way you love someone when you're young and haven't yet learned to love carefully. When I found out I was pregnant, he was not able to be what I needed him to be. We ended. I met Robert 4 months later. He knew everything before our second date. He looked at me for a long time and said, "The baby is part of you. That's enough for me." He has never wavered from that. Not once. Not in 25 years. But you have a right to know where you come from. All of it. And so I am leaving you everything I know about Patrick Whitfield. His name, his last known city, a photograph I have kept for 25 years. What you do with this is entirely yours. I love you past every boundary of the word, always and completely. Mom. I called my dad at 9:30 that morning. He answered on the second ring. Happy birthday, sweetheart. Did the Dad. He heard it in my voice. He always hears it. You knew, I said. Yes. For 25 years. Yes. And you were just my dad. I am your dad. I put my hand on the counter to steady myself. Why didn't you tell me? Because your mother asked me to wait until she could tell you herself, and then she ran out of time. A pause. I trusted the letter. She asked me to trust the letter. I didn't say anything for a moment. Are you okay? I asked him. With me knowing? He was quiet the way he gets when something matters. Then he said, I was there when you came into the world. I taught you to ride a bike. I sat in the bleachers at every soccer game, including the ones where you told me I was embarrassing. You were embarrassing. You wanted me there anyway. Always, I said, and my voice broke on that word. I am your father, he said. That is not biology. It is a decision I made before you were born and have remade every single day since. Nothing in that letter changes it. I stood in my kitchen on my 25th birthday and I cried. Not from sadness exactly, from something more complicated than sadness. From love and grief and the particular feeling of having the ground shift under your feet while someone holds your hand so steadily that you don't fall. After I called my dad, I went back to the envelope. Inside, along with the letter, there was a photograph and a folded piece of paper with everything my mother knew about Patrick Whitfield. The photograph was old, a man in his mid-20s, laughing at something outside the frame, dark hair, leaning against a car. I looked at it for a long time. I found myself in it, the shape of my jaw, the way my eyes crinkle at the corners when I laugh. Specific things I had always had and never been able to place, because my dad's coloring was different and my mother's face had been my only reference. Here they were, explained, after 25 years. I put the photograph on my dresser. I sat on the edge of my bed. I thought about my mother sitting somewhere, maybe at the kitchen table, maybe in a hospital room, maybe in the quiet of some ordinary afternoon, knowing she was dying and picking up a pen anyway and deciding that I deserved the truth, even if she wouldn't be there when I received it. The courage of that. I had never loved her more than I did in that moment, and I had never missed her more either. Both things, at exactly the same time. It took me 3 months to decide. I didn't rush it. My therapist, Dr. Park, had been walking with me through all of it, and the one thing she kept coming back to was, what do you actually need, Anna? Not what you think you should do. What do you need? What I needed was to know my whole story. I had half of it my whole life. The letter had given me the other half's name. It seemed worth following. I wrote Patrick Whitfield a letter. Real paper. Careful words. I told him who I was. I told him I wasn't looking to disrupt his life. I told him I understood if he didn't respond. I told him I just wanted to know. 3 weeks later, he called me. His voice was careful when he said my name, like he had been rehearsing it. I didn't know about you, he said. I want you to know that first. When Diane and I ended, there was nothing to know. If there had been... He stopped. I was 24, and I wasn't who I should have been, but I would not have walked away from a child. I believed him. We talked for 40 minutes that first call. He told me he had a daughter named Rebecca, 19 years old, studying environmental science. A sister. I had a sister. I had to ask him to give me a moment when he said that. Here is what I have come to understand, a year later, sitting with all of it. My mother made the choice she believed was right. She found my dad, and he was exactly right. And she built a life and a family on that foundation. And it was real. And it was good. But she also knew, somewhere she kept it, that I deserved the whole truth. That carrying a secret on someone else's behalf, even with love, even with the best reasons, has a cost. And she decided she would not let that cost be paid by me, without my knowledge. So she wrote the letter. She trusted me with it. She trusted 25-year-old Amma, a version of me she would never meet, to be big enough to hold it. There are days I'm angry at her. I want to be honest about that. There are days I think about being 16 at her funeral and not knowing what I know now. And something in me aches at the years of questions I never got to ask her. But then I think about 4 pages of her handwriting, 4 pages of her voice, the most honest thing she ever said to me, said in the only way she had left. And I think she loved me enough to tell me the truth, even when telling it cost her something, even when it was hard, even when she wouldn't be there to see how I received it. That is not a small thing. That is actually one of the largest things anyone has ever done for me. I am 26 years old. I have a father in Columbus who calls every Sunday and fixes nothing on the porch swing, and is the steadiest person I have ever known. I have a biological father in Austin who I am getting to know in careful increments. Phone calls, then visits, the slow and honest work of building something real from complicated ground. I have a half-sister named Rebecca who called me 3 days after our first conversation and talked for 2 hours, and whom I already, somehow, cannot imagine not knowing. And I have a mother who has been gone for 10 years and who left me 4 pages of her handwriting and the most important truth of my life, and the specific, unmistakable proof that she knew me well enough to trust me with it. I carry all of it: the grief, the love, the complicated, expanding, occasionally overwhelming fullness of a story that turned out to be bigger than I knew. I carry it because it's mine. All of it is mine. And I am, on most days, on the good days, on the days when I can feel all of it without being crushed by any of it, grateful. Grateful that she wrote the letter. Grateful that I opened it. Grateful that the truth, even when it breaks something open, lets in light. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to Televera. Drop a comment below and tell us, has a truth ever changed how you understood your own story? We read every single one. See you in the next story.